This content is intended for adult listeners only. Listener discretion is advised.
When I arrived at the border to Shin Jiya, the Asian district, 2 guards put a hood over my head. They did a rapid test for the variant, and then down a very long elevator ride. They took the hood off, and they left. And I've been waiting an hour now for Chief Lingyun Chen. I am sitting at a small table in a sparse, mostly glass room. I am looking down on a huge 100-meter-long underground aquifer and an electric generation plant. There are thousands of workers in hard hats. I have never seen anything like this. And this is where Tamo first tagged, at age 6. Before the chief arrives, I have to review what I've learned from our reconnaissance missions so I can play to his virtues and vices. Let's see, Chief Chen, he's Chinese-American, calculating, impatient, high-performing, relentless, and does not trust outsiders or liars. Shin Jiya is the primary energy generation district and host of the central access point for all race districts. We believe that tens of thousands of non-whites were smuggled through central access and then deposited in the Northern Imperial, that's the white district, to work as indentured servants. If I can get Chief Chen to share what he knows about those trafficking operations, that'll be a really good start to finding several very important people, the primary goal of my mission. Oh, I think that's him. He does not look happy.
Entertaining Diversity presents Caucus, After the Fall, created by Teja Arboleda.
Well, thank you for meeting me. I appreciate your time.
Have you done a rapid test?
Yes, they gave him one earlier.
Because we don't have a lot of those left.
I know you're probably very busy. My name is...
Yeah, I know who you are. Yeah, that producer guy, right? Those documentaries where I thought that stuff was propaganda. I hated it.
It's not an unfamiliar comment. A lot of people didn't like my work, but I'm not a producer now. I can't be. There's no purpose to that anymore. Now, I'm just a friend, and I'm listening in on some stories. I think that your story will be part of a library of stories.
How did you get here?
Well, I used an e-bike. It took me a couple of weeks through the narrow corridor of the restricted zone, just south of...
You know, if it wasn't you, I wouldn't have taken this meeting. So what do you want? The guard said you had a very important news, and
Yes, I know.
I'm a very busy man.
I know. I came to you first as the trade hub and your connections to the Northern Imperial. My plan is to go to all the SLOs, speak to the SLO leaders, and your stories will be the first featured entries for a museum that I'm putting together. It's called the American Race War Museum and Memorial.
That's a stupid name. It's not a great idea for a museum. Where's it going to be? Okay, I know you're a producer, and there's really no place for this. You're wasting my time. I don't have time.
Okay. Well, I'm also here to inform you and all SLO leaders that we firmly believe that the war has ended.
The war has ended.
That's what we believe.
What do you mean the war has ended?
Well, former President Damian Davidson had been, I don't know, maybe assassinated. He died, and then UDEP had fallen apart, dismantled. So we believe that there's no more leadership and there's no more direction. There's no more UDEP. That's what we...
I can't believe this. I have to see it to believe it. I'm guessing you have evidence
Yes.
as your producer.
That's why I'm here.
No wonder there hasn't been any queries in a while. The last 2 years have really dried up. What's the proof?
UDAP is no longer distributing vaccines and the rapid tests, right? You said yourself you don't have many left, and there are no more soldiers to be seen. There is some free flow through the restricted zone, and that's how I got here. I mean, how else would I get here?
I don't trust. Who is your informant?
Have you heard the name Tamo Alvarez? Tamo, the name Tamo.
Tamo. You're kidding me. I never wanted to hear that name again.
It was a long time ago.
You see this scar?
Yeah?
Unprovoked. Really unstable kid. One day, just out of the blue, he appeared dirty, shirtless. He was maybe 6 or 7. I was in my teens. So you're saying that Tamo, he was the informant? For who?
Well, he was the first of several.
Several.
Through the decades, yes. Have you heard of La Mura?
No. What's that?
Well, very few people know about us. We are a mixed-race nomadic community, and I'm part of that group.
Race mixing is illegal, and it's dangerous. What does this group even do? There are Eslos for a reason, and how did they escape UDAP?
Surviving. Just surviving. Basic survival. We managed to elude Eslos since the Great Migration.
Well, how is it possible that you're all alive? The variant, why did you not die from the variant?
Some believe that mixed-race people have a stronger immune system. At least that's what we gathered through the years. Maybe the combination of DNA. I don't believe it. No one got sick. We avoided all contact with any Eslo. It's a little curious, don't you think?
Where did you live?
We lived all over. We kept moving around. Some weeks or months it was a mile here, 10 miles there, but mostly in the restricted zone, remaining undetected. Personally, I didn't join La Mura until later. I had spent time in different Eslos, and I was distributing stories to counter UDAP. Then I was targeted, and I barely escaped a UDAP arrest, an abduction, and then I ended up at La Mura. We are anywhere in the restricted zone. It's not an easy life. It's a very difficult life.
You had a difficult life. You think it's easy for us here in Shin Jiya?
Well, no, respectfully not. I think it's probably the opposite. I mean, I'm looking around now. It seems like you're doing okay, but that doesn't tell the whole story. Now, I want to hear what your challenges were so that I can share everyone's stories eventually, right? There's so much we don't know about each other.
Okay. You want to help.
Yes.
Why didn't you say that in the first place? Rather than coming in here like you want something from me.
What was life like in the early years when you were young, back when it was called Nuraja?
2039 during the Great Migration, I was 18. Lost many friends during the migration. First 5 years were a horror show. Starvation, disease, sickness, suicides. We lived in a makeshift shack. Dirt floor, an odd assortment of planks and wooden boards, nails, splinters. My mother actually used mattress covers on the floor to make it safe for us to walk on. Each family had one pot to cook on. Many used outdoor fireplace for cooking. Mosquitoes, flies, ticks, rats. And there was no clean water. Everyone was skinny, bad nutrition. When I was about 10, New Raja made a deal with the Northern Imperial, supplied energy, and was appointed as the distribution center for all of trade. That was until the underground aquifers were discovered. And that's what turned our suffering into success. We built highly efficient hydropower systems, revived old computers and software, and built a whole network to manage our operations and systems. But even with that, still, people died. My girlfriend died. And it took every bit of energy not to lash out. I had to hold my anger back. It was totally senseless. So if it wasn't the variant that killed us, it was everything else.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate that story. There's really no way to know what different SLOs are dealing with. And as I said earlier, these stories, I think, will really resonate with everyone. So in order to survive, you told me a little bit about the underground aquifers and the hydropower systems and the computers. You built an amazing system, seeing all these people around here. What types of roles or jobs does everyone have?
Very few people did the jobs that they did before the Great Migration. There's a lot of denial at first. The people who struggled the most were the intellectuals, the white-collar, the administrators, the sales and finance, the stuff like that. The people who excelled right away, those were the people who were handy. The plumbers, the structural engineers, the mechanics, the farmers, the people with construction skills, that sort of thing. But there was no money. So it was all about contributing. What ways could you help? And in some ways that was very, very freeing.
Very innovative. How did New Raja, then Shin Jiya, become such good friends with the Northern Imperial?
We are not friends, nor allies, but we made things work because of self-preservation. In fact, we knew nothing about Northern Imperial. It wasn't until a deal was made or we lose our status, our privileges. And so then we became the central trading post.
What were the primary assets of Shin Jiya then?
Well, we built a computer network system based on very old technology, but robust enough to internally manage distribution, energy, and supply chain management.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. Did all that in just a few decades. You know, what makes me curious is how the variant plays a role in all this. What do you know about the variant?
It killed millions, spread quickly, killed quickly, huge pandemic. First time the world had ever seen something like this. People of different races were affected uniquely, different symptoms, different ailments. It was terrible.
You don't think that there was anything strange about the variant?
What are you saying?
Just wondering if there's some information you might have or something you might know about the variant that...
Are you saying that there's something that I should know? Are you talking about the secret about that virus? We all knew that it attacked different races in different ways. For us Asians, it was quick onset lung cancer, acute respiratory disease. So it is good that the government separated us. Otherwise, we'd all be dead.
Now you're referring to UDEP as the government.
No, not directly. But UDAP is responsible for carrying out important tasks to ensure all of our safety.
So,
Look.
So there's nothing curious about the variant?
When I was informed that it was the famous documentary filmmaker we all know from back in the day, I was skeptical. The government needs UDAP to keep the peace.
So what do you think about Davidson's strategy to take government bids from federal-related construction and maintenance agencies?
Davidson had to do what he had to do. I would have done the same. The before U.S. government was really weak. Federal, state governments couldn't keep bridges from collapsing. The roads were crumbling, let alone keep guns under control. You think the government had even the slightest ability to keep infrastructure intact?
I don't know.
Well, infrastructure was a joke in the U.S. Japan, China, Korea were so far ahead of us. So of course, Davidson looked for us for structural and logistical support. And we couldn't turn down the opportunity. The alternative would have been to cater towards Northern Imperial like servants. We had no interest in that. Japanese internment camps were bad enough.
What I hear you saying is that there was a reason why Davidson put you in this position, gave you these opportunities, and what the relationship is between Shin Jiya and the Northern Imperial. So what do you think about how the media was handled during the before US? I mean, as a producer, you said yourself, I was part of that.
Davidson's control over the media was the only way to handle the out-of-control, publicly owned distribution channels. He employed lots of people. Whatever that was said in all of his media about competing construction companies was probably accurate. There was so much corruption anyway, and all tied to organized crime and nepotism and deals and lies.
When Davidson pushed the agenda about having taxpayers pay for his own construction company,
Davidson gets the job done. That's the most important. I don't care that he makes more money or not.
So you believe that Davidson is the good guy, that he's looking out for all of us?
No, I do not believe that Davidson was a good guy.
And the Great Migration, the Great Separation, if you will,
Kept us all safe.
even though millions died in transition, en route, and
That is what UDAP is for. Besides, the real tragedy was the war and the people who died. Do you know how many people we lost? The ones who never came home? They were as young as 15 that they were sent to fight. And if it wasn't for UDAP, we wouldn't be having this conversation. My two brothers never came back. People from the neighborhood never came back. That's the real tragedy.
I'm so sorry for your loss. It's never easy. Over time, we have ways of finding solace and building community. And it seems like here you built something quite strong and powerful and meaningful. In some sense, some people might even believe that you have everything you need.
Well, that is a slap in the face. You think we're privileged just because we have ties to the Northern Imperial. It's not like this is what we wanted. In fact, it's horrendous knowing how many people have been sacrificed. I grew up here. This is not a privilege. What alternative was there?
I don't know what alternatives there would be for anyone or for any SLO. I would imagine that in your case, the energy resources, where did you get the minerals and the resources to build these technologies that you supply to the Northern Imperial?
UDAB trucks would drop off rare earth materials. I don't know from where. I never asked where they came from. We had to hand wash them at first. And then the runoff, we found out that made people sick. So we let that runoff feed into the restricted zone. We then used some of the materials to make large-scale batteries. And the rest of the minerals we sent to the Northern Imperial. I have no idea what they do with it. But that's been going on since Shin Jiya was designated as a central access point and energy center.
So what I hear you saying is that you had to protect your people from these toxic chemicals, from cleaning the rare earth materials, and then you dump that into the restricted zone. Is that right?
Yes.
That explains a little bit about why we at La Mura had to avoid certain areas. We understood that there may be some areas that were toxic, that were not toxic before. And these large swaths of land near the border of the restricted zone in Shin Jiya.
Hence it was called the restricted zone. People were not supposed to be living there. That's on you.
the Northern Imperial needed other resources and support and help. From what I understand, many Asians, even more maybe South Asians, especially women, were incentivized to work as temporary maids, nurses, child caretakers for the wealthy elite in the Northern Imperial. Don't you think that's a little odd? And we're talking a couple of 100,000 of them. How did they get there?
Well, it wasn't just South Asians. There were blacks and Hispanics, many from all over. They came to Shin Jiya. Truckloads sometimes.
Truckloads?
We had a large drop of South Asian folks. But like I said, Davidson was doing what he had to do.
Did anyone ever question who was taking care of the kids? If all these women were being shipped to the Northern Imperial and fathers and boys were being conscripted, and who do you think was taking care of the children in these other SLOs?
I don't know. You bring up a good point.
Did Tomo ever say anything about his mother or father?
No. He didn't talk much at all. Nothing about himself, or his past, or where he'd come from. You know, he might have said something at one point, how he was jealous that we had families. I thought he was South Asian, maybe. But he didn't talk about his family. He didn't talk about his mother, his father. If he didn't know where his mother was, could she have been one of those workers that was sent up to the Northern Imperial?
Have you heard about a girl about Tomo's age? Her name is Sema. Have you ever heard that name?
No.
She is Tomo's half-sister.
I never knew he had a sister. Was she one of those kids that you mentioned? There were informants? Spying?
Yes, she was. I don't believe she had been to Shin Jiya. She did spy on a couple of SLOs. Some of the information that she was able to bring back to us was just about building trust and partnerships, understanding what each SLO was struggling with and how they were surviving. And so, for example, how did New Raja, now Shin Jiya, manage to gain that trust and partnership with the Northern Imperial? That information we did not get from her.
I inherited this position. I didn't make it. So I don't have deep ties with Davidson. In fact, I've never met him. From what I understand, the original purpose of our ESLO was to support rebuilding infrastructure throughout all ESLOs, to rebuild the country. But everything changed once the war became untenable. And so in the end, there was no rebuilding. So the role of our elders was to build a massive resource to supply energy using the skill sets of all of our engineers. The Davidson holding companies had been compromised by those terrorists. All the money that they put into rebuilding the country, they can never recoup their investments.
You mentioned terrorists. Who do you think they were?
It was the mixed race terrorist group. They were behind the multi-city bombings.
You firmly believe it was the mixed race terrorist group.
Who else could have been?
You realize that I'm mixed race, and Lamura was originally formed by people who were blamed for those terrorist bombings.
There's no proof that they didn't. Sure, there are innocent mixed race that became collateral damage. Others were shipped off to different ESLOs.
That's right.
And with the variant and the war, I can't imagine what happened to them. Millions of innocent, I'm guessing.
Yes, millions.
But that doesn't mean that they weren't the ones who conducted the bombing. I could understand, and I would be angry too, but I wouldn't retaliate by bombing and killing millions of monoracials as retaliation.
I don't know where you got that information from. And this is another reason why it's so important for us to understand what each ESO believes was the cause of the war. To blame the bombings on mixed race is only information that you got somehow when we still had media and the internet. And I'm not angry. I just would like to know about our stories so we could figure out what really went on. Are there any of the taxpayer federally funded contract companies tied to Davidson still in operation?
No. In fact, I don't think there were ever any. At least not anywhere near enough to rebuild the whole country's infrastructure. Gas, water, sewage, bridges, highways, buildings. From what I learned, there was a lot of propaganda Davidson used to manipulate the system to favor his deep pockets. But that doesn't matter to me or my ESLO. We have a role, we deliver. That's it. Davidson owned the media, so it's no surprise he could say whatever he wanted.
Yes, he did own the media. He certainly did. That's why I no longer do that work. Can't. Shin Jiya is the throughway now. All the trade from all ESLOs must pass through you. Do you believe your exports are reaching all ESLOs like you mentioned earlier?
We have very strict protocols for trade and distribution. All goods and services except our energy exports come through us. All I know is that we're geographically central. So that makes sense, right?
Well, maybe.
Right, there's no physical contact with the other ESLOs. Everything is disinfected, passed on through our conveyor belts. Our biggest export is energy. And that contract is strictly with the Northern Imperial. Their job is to maximize redistribution via its UDAP deployment. Are they not? Well, you wouldn't know because from where you're from, I think you know something.
Shin Jiya has sub-districts. What are they like?
Looks like you're playing producer again. But I'll play. We have many sub-districts. They keep changing. South Asian, Central Asian, Far East Asian, Southeast Asian. But there's a lot of mixing. Sometimes it's really difficult to know someone's ethnicity. We have all different types of food. Just walking through the Central District, that's where most of our commerce takes place back there. And you can smell the Vietnamese banh mi. And the blue awning there is the Korean bulgogi.
Oh.
You turn around at the fountain, that's the Malaysian apambalik. And the bamboo curtain cart there,
Yeah.
that serves the Japanese oyako donburi and the takoyaki.
Oh.
The red line table with baizo, that's Chinese. Sometimes I take a little pinch of something as I walk along the way.
I have to say, I am really jealous. And it sounds absolutely wonderful. And I smelled some of that when I was taken here. It also makes me wonder about all those who have missed all of that through the years, those who were conscripted. What do you know about Davidson's military draft?
A lot of men in our district were drafted. Many young men. Boys were drafted and they never came back. My two older brothers never came back. Cousins, drafted, never came back.
You were too young?
I was far too young to understand it. And even to get to know any of them.
What do you think happened to them?
Died fighting in the war.
How does that make you feel about people from other ESLOs?
They're not to be trusted. They hate us. We have a policy. If you leave Shin Jiya, you never come back. We have to be prepared to fight at any time.
Would you have gone if you were old enough?
Of course.
And
Yes, I would have gone. I learned it over the years from my aunties and uncles that there were Thousands, tens of thousands, who were sent to the front lines. No one ever talks about the young women and girls who went missing, either.
What about your wife?
Miyako. She's Japanese. Or
Yeah.
do you know that already?
Yes, and your son.
Kenji. Kenji has these fantasies about enlisting, but I discourage him. I'm afraid that he might end up fighting.
As I mentioned earlier, we have had a few people in different SLOs, including several over the many decades in Shin Jiya, and even before in New Raja. So yes, and I apologize. There are some things that we know that informed us as to who to even speak to in the different SLOs. So there are so many people who have gone missing for so many reasons. The war, the fighting, and maybe even many of the women and some of the men who went up north to the Northern Imperial to work as maids or manual labor. I need to find Tamo and Sema. I feel somewhat responsible for them. I believe that their mother may have been one of those who ended up in the Northern Imperial working as a maid. She was very young at the time.
I don't understand. If the war is over, why do you need to find them? Something doesn't make sense. What is your connection to Tamo and Sema?
They are both part of Lamura. And as you know, we had spies and informants throughout the different SLOs through the years. Tamo and Sema were two of our best.
How could you do that to these kids? That's a horrible thing that you did.
The last I know is that they were in the Northern Imperial, soon before the war ended. But they still have some information that we need from them. I need to find them. I need to bring them home.
There are times when we have to make difficult decisions. And protocol leads us to that. But it seems like you want to make redemptions. And I can respect that.
I mean, there were so many other kids and young adults, right, who were conscripted and drafted, including Shin Jiya.
We had lots of young kids, children that were drafted. And I never did anything about it. Maybe we have more in common than I think.
Do you know anybody who I can speak to who has ties to the Northern Imperial?
My only direct connection to someone from the Northern Imperial is this defector. His name is William Deshane. He used to be an ESLO liaison or ambassador or something like that. We used to deliver queries to him when there was a question or a problem, and I don't know how legitimate any of that was. He started informing us of what he learned about the Northern Imperial. I thought it was too dangerous to have any of that information shared, but he insisted. He's in the restricted zone, in the junction of the before Kentucky, Illinois, and Missouri. I can give you the coordinates.
I'm sure that there's some information we'll be able to get that will be helpful in bringing us back together again at some point. But I should probably get on the road once I get the coordinates from you.
You're staying for dinner. Staying for the night. Turn off the recorder and we'll talk about other things. I'll have someone give you some extra charge fuel cells. And then tomorrow, I'll have someone take you and your bike to the border. Save some energy.
Thank you, Chief.
Caucus After the Fall stars Michael Toe as Chief Lingyun Chen, Ian Lyons as William Deshane, Jackie Davis as Chief Rose Jacobs, Rena Malashevsky as Chief Winona Redfeather, Nahim Garcia as Chief Ricardo Gutierrez, Celeste Oliva as Chief Amehan Bekele, Michelle Aguillon as Chief Akane Ashikaga, Shahjahan Khan as Lieutenant General Shimer Rashid, and Teja Arboleda as the producer, with additional voiceover by Barbara Wilson Arboleda. Created and written by Teja Arboleda. Script advisor Barbara Wilson Arboleda. Directed and executive produced by Teja Arboleda. Co-produced by Michael Toe and Barbara Wilson Arboleda. Original music and soundscaping by Arshan Galas. Edited by Teja Arboleda. Casting director Michael Toe. Development director Dan Watanabe. Marketing coordinator Katie Arboleda. Special thanks to Desiree Cooper. This podcast was recorded under a SAG-AFTRA Micropod agreement. Caucus After the Fall is an entertaining diversity production in partnership with Toe Arboleda Films. Caucus After the Fall was developed from the original story Caucus by Teja Arboleda. All characters and other entities appearing in this work, Caucus and Caucus After the Fall, are fictitious. Any resemblance to real persons, dead or alive, or other real-life entities, past, present, or future, is purely coincidental. For more information, go to www.entertainingdiversity.com.